my name is David. I've been in the field in malware for over 8 years now. I started as a self-taught black hat as a kid. And during the fact that I live in Israel, I got enlisted into the army. And by luck have it, I got enlisted to the only defense unit in the world of cyber. So instead of being an offense like I taught myself over the years, I became a defense guy. And not only that, I was sent to and became a malware researcher. I helped to create the unit and the group that started all of that. And I was pretty much the senior guy when it comes to analyzing all the different attacks, including big nation-state attacks and even and smaller cybercrime. I did that for about 5 years. And after that, I moved to a kind of a hybrid role when it comes to research and development. Did a lot of detection, high-scale things, and came back to malware at CyberArk, where I do a lot of unpopular threat actors and threat vectors. So last year I did work on Discord, this time talking about cheats and talking about other stuff later down the line. And that's my main focus. There were a couple of points where I noticed that I just love this field. It started when as a kid, I used to do basically like a script kiddie, like everyone. And I noticed how cool it would be to just block everyone and stop attacks. And my experience on basically stopping a defacement attack in one of the websites, and that kind of triggered this little passion. And the biggest example for my passion, why it still fuels me, is I have a lot of friends and like older relatives that got attacked by phishing attacks and scams and stuff like that. And just by the fact that if I was next to them and just gave them the most basic example and information that could have helped them save a ton of money, headache, the stress, that one of the biggest entry points. But the biggest passion right now and the biggest fuel is the fact that everything I do helps to protect a lot of people, and I have the chance to protect the whole country against massive nation-state attacks. So one of the biggest things I saw eSport providers and organizations do is to provide actual computers and the whole setup themselves. So if you ever saw like the on-stage events of League of Legends, for example, they essentially provide their own hardware and their own software and install it all on the computer that they own, thus not letting the players a chance to cheat. When it comes to fully remote solutions, I don't know there's something like that right now. And the biggest problem, again, is the remote solutions where players at home can install cheats like the DMA cheats, the direct memory access, which bypass every solution out there, extremely hard to detect. And those are the ones that esports are usually afraid of. There are a lot of cases where professional esports players were suspected and actually caught using cheats like aimbots in games like Valorant and CSGO. And those topics always start a big commotion on the internet, and they usually get disqualified or at least kicked out of the team they played at. And yeah, so that kind of stuff always happens. Mainly depends on the game itself and the game developers. Most of the time, when it comes to right now, at least, the game developers have the upper hand because the kernel level anti-cheats. It's really hard to gain an upper hand when it comes to cheating. You need to be a very skilled researcher and know exactly how to exploit the game and the different moving parts. So either you pay for a very experienced cheat developer, or you are yourself a very experienced cheat developer, which are there not a lot of out there. So in the general case, and in general also in esports, most of the cases, the game developers and the tournament organizers usually have the upper hand. And after all, they do find all those cheaters. And even if a cheater is using cheats, just a recording of the screen can give you a lot of indication if there's an aimbot or something like that. Because, for example, the mouse movement is going to be weird, or the gameplay is not going to be basically make sense for a professional player. Like he will know there's someone behind the wall while he has no indication. So there are a lot of telltale signs. So thus, I think the tournament organizers and the game developers have the upper hand right now. I know there are big companies like Blizzard that do use hackers and cheaters basically to try to attack their games, but it's very unheard of. I think when it comes to red teams in general, is for example, the CS:GO tournaments where they have cheater tournaments, where they encourage all of that. which is a safe hub for all that. I think that's awesome. I know there's a talk about that today too. But other than that, blue team is basically everyone in the anti-cheat solution community, and there's no proper, like good guy red team out there right now. So there's a lot of different levels for that consideration. You can think about when it comes to the anti-cheat solution as where does it come from? Do you trust the company that provides that anti-cheat solution? Is it a Chinese-based company where they have their own laws and regulations, or a different country that has stipulations when it comes to usage of their software? Is it safe in general to use for your users? As in, there's no hidden telemetry tracking, there's no hidden information stealer or whatever happening in those solutions, and also stability. As anti-cheat solutions are very rough on the computer and usually reduce both the performance and the stability of the computer, it's a very, very fine dance between security and protection of the game compared to the actual solution and how you can infect users, even outside of the actual game. So I think the biggest ethical question is how much you're willing to put an emphasis on security compared to the discomfort or risk towards the users themselves. So for professional tournaments, I think anti-cheat solutions, their on kernel level should be turned on. But if the game, like let's say the game has different levels of play, for lower competitive gameplay, you can remove the anti-cheats, reduce all that, because after all, there's no big stake in that. The more you go high up, the more you need to actually implement solutions and actually use those solutions. Thus, only use that on the higher end where there's actual damages that could be done. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of things game developers and anti-cheat solution developers can learn from cheaters. Even for the simpler game developers, for example, if you want to combat the cheat engine, which is the most popular solution out there right now to cheat in simple games, instead of saving the important variables like the money and the health amount of the player as that specific value, if you just add a simple just +5 or whatever, the cheaters won't be able to scan and find the actual value itself. So if you understand how the cheats work, you can find creative and very non-expensive ways to try to protect against most of them. Although again, if a cheater really wants to find a way to attack the game, he will spend enough amount of time and money and resources to actually find a cheat. So it's a million game of upping the entry barrier and making it really, really hard to actually cheat. And you can do that really simply if you understand the actual cheats and how they work. So for game developers themselves, try to understand how cheaters work and cheat developers work. Understand what points and what kind of cheats are you willing to essentially absorb and ignore, while put a focus on the cheats that actually will damage your player base and the experience of the other players. Now, when it comes to the players themselves, don't install cheats. Not only does it just reduce the amount of fun in the game, the biggest problem there isn't the actual cheating. It's more of the fact that most of the cheats, like 99% of them, come with malware built in. And for example, if a cheat is free, it's not free. You are becoming the product, and you're not paying for the product. You're paying with money. You're paying with it with your information. For security researchers, one of the best focuses right now, in my opinion, is kernel level anti-cheats, where if you find an exploit in a big and popular solution, you can essentially just stop a massive attack. You can just think about the most popular solutions out there and the amount of players they have and the amount of computers they install that. And a single remote execution exploit on that could be essentially the most devastating attack out there right now.